Welcome to another edition of Travelcaster. Today we are in Vilnius, the capital of Lithuania. We've had 24 hours here to explore what this great city has to offer, but now it's time to move. We'll be travelling through Latvia and on to Estonia. Destination Tallinn. This is Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there. It means an early start at 6:30 because there are no direct trains between Vilnius and Tallinn. You can go to Riga in a day and then take the next day to get to Tallinn, but my timetable is determined by a ferry link which I've got to get across to Stockholm, and that's on Sunday evening. So we've opted to take the bus. It's going to take around about 8 hours. We'll be travelling through Latvia and the capital Riga there before going on to our final destination of Tallinn in Estonia. Now, if you are travelling by bus in Europe, it's a little bit different from going on the train because from any one destination, there might be several different companies, several different operators going to the same place. For instance, today to Riga and on to Tallinn, there are probably about 10 journeys or more from here in Vilnius. Now, there are about 3 or 4 different bus companies. I'm going on Flixbus. The tickets cost me €24. And for that, I get a double seat, which means I won't have to share with anybody. A bit more luxury, a bit more spreading out. There are also some newer operators on the market. Luxbus offers you extra comfort for a little bit of an extra price. Haven't been on the buses themselves, but the pictures look quite inviting. So when you do get to the bus station, make sure that you follow the signs correctly and make sure you know precisely which operator you're travelling with. And here we are 8.5 hours later in Tallinn. I have to say that the bus journey was interesting to say the least. Firstly, the Wi-Fi and power sockets that had been promised by Flixbus did not emerge. We had a different bus today from the ones they normally use, and so there weren't those facilities. There was a toilet on board, which was useful. Didn't have any flushing water in it. Fortunately, I only needed to use it once. But anyway, after all of that as well, my double seat turned out to be a single seat partway along the journey, which made it extremely compact. I would take the train any day over the bus. It would have taken me 2 days to get here via Riga, but I think it would have been worth it. So after that difficult journey, I decided right at the last minute to change my hotel. And if you're using a booking app, you can do this quite easily, depending on the terms and conditions you sign up for. My tip would always to be get a hotel that can be cancelled right up until the day of arrival. You may pay a little bit more, but by having that cancellation option, you can change and get somewhere else. And as it's my birthday, I decided to upgrade here to My City Hotel in Tallinn Old Town. It's a nice old building that's been tastefully modernised, and without any prompting, probably because I showed them my passport, they delivered a little bottle of champagne to my room. Well, many happy returns to me. So, having checked into the hotel and sampled some of Tallinn's delights last night, more of which later, it's time to explore the city. And the place you'll probably come to first is here, the Viru Gate. At the start of important roads, says the plaque, dates back to 1362 and is one of the city's most distinctive landmarks. This is selfie central. Everybody here is posing for photos. And just to the left of me is a rather attractive and fragrant flower market. Just the place if you want to buy something perhaps a little romantic or decorative. Now, as you approach the main square in the old town, you may see people dressed in medieval costume. They're not really here for historical purposes as such. They're advertising the Old Hansa restaurant, which serves extremely hearty fare in a medieval style. Yes, you will be served by wenches, and yes, your drinks may come in clay pots. But there is a historical significance because this building was once the city's packing house. That's essentially what Old Hansa translates to. It was the place where the granary products and all those sorts of things were stored in the 15th century. Now, I'm not entirely sure how much of the building dates back to that time, but it's certainly been decorated in the period. And it's a good place to have, as I say, a hearty meal. Won't be the cheapest that you eat, but it's certainly one of the most memorable. Now, when it comes to eating out in Tallinn, there are probably very good vegan and vegetarian options, but this is a city of meat, and one of the best places to eat it is Peppersack. It's opposite the Old Hansa restaurant, so if you don't fancy the medieval experience, but you do want your fill of, well, beef or moose, as it says here on the menu, this is the place to go. Another thing you'll notice at a lot of the restaurants is that menus are offered in many languages. Yes, there is Estonian, but there's also English, and usually Russian as well, signifying just how close this place is to Russia and how many visitors come from there to here. Time now for another Travelcaster tip, and this time it's on how to pay for stuff. It may sound like an obvious thing, but through most of the countries that we've been on this journey so far, the universal currency has been the euro. It's used by many European countries who are members of the EU. The only exception so far has been Poland, which has yet to adopt the euro and still uses the zloty. Most places, the vast majority of places these days, do take cards. Consider getting a credit card that has no international transaction fees. You might still pay interest on it if you don't pay your bill, but you won't be paying those additional transaction fees. And if you are asked to pay in the local currency or in your home currency, always do so in the local. You'll get a better exchange rate. Now, I'm not always the biggest fan of cafes in market squares because they do tend to be a bit pricey, but I'm going to make an exception here in Tallinn for Kervaida, which is opposite the town hall. This beneath the name it says Kado Kunst, which translates to disappearing art. Inside you will find some lovely bits of artwork, some lovely oil paintings and various other bits of visuals all over the walls. And on the seats, some sheepskins to keep you warm on the coldest of days. And it can get cold here. And in the window, there's a little pussy cat, which is attracting the attention of this family of children. Now, the tower that I earlier spotted from the Viru Gate wasn't the cathedral at all. It was, in fact, the tower at the top of the town hall, and sooner or later you will find yourself in the main square. It's one of the most revered symbols of Tallinn. The town hall, my guidebook tells me, dates back to 1404. About 2:05. It says it's possible to see the Citizens' Hall and Council Hall inside, although most visitors, says the guide, head straight for the tower and the 115-step ascent to the top. Top of a tower, you say? Well, that idea didn't last long, as there's a sign here that's saying the Town Hall Tower is open from June the 1st to August the 31st. We're recording this in March, so no tower for me today. So little time, so much food. Earlier we were talking about the meatiness of Tallinn's cuisine, but here on Ratsakavu you can find vegan options. Indeed, there's a vegan restaurant right in front of me, and further along is Compressor, described as a legendary pancake house. Now, I have been here on a previous visit, and I can confirm the pancakes are extremely tasty. The only thing is, be prepared to wait. It's around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's already a line outside. For me, one of the great things about travel is randomness. Take, for instance, shopping in Tallinn. Yes, there are loads of malls. You can see all of the big names on the high street if you like. Or you could come to a side street like this one on Vrime, not too far from the main town square, which has this vinyl record shop. and an artisan chocolatier, and it's also home to one of the most distinctive pubs you'll ever visit. It's the Depeche Mode bar. Just can't get enough. As you walk up the hill from the old town, and beware, it is a big hill, you'll come across one of the biggest sites in town. The Alexander Nevsky Cathedral is an Orthodox church in central Tallinn, built between 1894 and 1900, when the country was part of the Russian Empire. It does have a touch, says one guide, of a mini Kremlin with its bulbous roof. And inside is even more spectacular, I'm told. Well, there's art, and then there is what I've just seen inside Alexander Nevsky Cathedral. Great frescoes of religious works, Jesus and God all around, and a really solemn service going on for what is today Easter Saturday, led by a Russian Orthodox priest in front of a tiny congregation. The number of visitors far outweighing the number of people actually involved in the service. But as it was such a solemn occasion, no recording allowed inside, no photos allowed inside either. But certainly an experience here in Tallinn. You're listening to Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there. And today we brought you to Estonia and the capital city, Tallinn. For more tips and information, head to travelcaster.blog. And please subscribe to the podcast on whichever platform you're listening.
This feels like a good time to brag about the fact that we've been able to electronically vote since 2007.
Always nice to eavesdrop on somebody else's tour. Those people are paying for all of that information. But opposite Nevsky Cathedral is the Estonian Parliament building. It's a very impressive building to see. Not quite as impressive as the cathedral itself, but, you know, democracy and all that. Now, eventually you'll get to the Tomb Kirk, the Tomb Church at the top of the hill, not far from Alexander Nevsky Cathedral. And if you walk behind the church, go down what looks like a fairly lonely street, you may think you've taken a wrong turning, but then you will emerge into this incredibly busy area, because this is the official viewing platform from which you get, oh my, a spectacular sight. A view over the whole of Tallinn below you. And if you come at the right time, this chat might be entertaining you. Now, if you're hoping to get that perfect picture for your Insta, be warned, you may have to wait a while, because as I stand here, there's probably about 100 people all wanting a selfie. There's all kinds of drama going on up here today, because most of the selfies aren't with people and their children or their families, but with two enormous seagulls, which are posing for the cameras. They're just there on the ledge, on the viewpoint itself, and loads of people are crowding around taking pictures. Now, you can see the pictures of the seagulls at travelcaster.blog, where there's loads of information about Tallinn, what to see and what to do when you get here. But from this viewpoint, you can really see what a city of contrasts this is. Before us are the red tiled roofs of the old town, the creams and the whites that you associate with old architecture. And beyond that, there are towering blocks of glass, commerce, shopping, business. And beyond that, the port of Tallinn. It really does symbolise what a confident the city this is, and how important it is when it comes to trade and logistics. So earlier in the pod we talked about eating. Now what about drinking? Well, there's lots of drinking to be done in Tallinn if you know where to go. One of my maxims in life is to ask a local. Ask a local where they would go to drink. I asked a local where they would go to drink. They sent me to a cellar bar that was completely empty. And so then I ended up at the Shamrock Bar, an Irish pub that isn't really Irish but does karaoke, like this. karaoke. Better than the karaoke I tried at the Helsinki bar the night before, which was like this. And full of drunken Finns, who when they're drunk can be rather rude. Anyway, it turns out there are loads of bars to try in Tallinn. You can check out some of my recommendations at travelcaster.blog. Well, I've made one final trip to the viewing platform above Tallinn's Old Town, and your man is still playing and those kids are still crying. But it is time for us to leave this city. It's been 48 hours of a fascinating insight into Estonia's capital. But now it's time to leave. Don't forget, you can see all of the details of where to go and what to do when you get here at travelcaster.blog. And please subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening. Join us again soon for another edition of Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there.